Hi everyone, it's Leslie. Welcome back to my channel. I am going to be talking to you today about making these fabulous earrings. They're long, they're bold, I love the colors. They're pretty straightforward, 4 elements put together with drops. But they are time consuming for sure. I have forgotten how time consuming when I made a pair. I hadn't made a pair in a long time. Anyway, I will see you on the bead board. I'm going to show you today how to make these really big and really stunning earrings, which I haven't made these in a long time. I used to make them. I forgot how time consuming they are. But they really do make a stunning effect as an earring. These earrings are created using 4 components. I've got 3 made, and I'm going to make one with you. And then you sew them together, sew beads around the edge, and then add drops to them. So I'm going to talk to you about materials a little bit. In the middle, this little bead here is a 4mm Czech glass bead, faceted. You can pretty much use any 4mm bead. These ones are actually kind of a pain because they're not really round. So I've had to make sure that they're lined up, going the same direction on these, so it's consistent. If you use something that's round, that might be a little bit easier for this. Then I've got 2 different colors of 1.8mm square beads. This one is a clear bead with a gold lining. This one's, I think it's called it's a matte khaki iris, sometimes called. I love this color, one of my favorites. I also have the same color in a 3mm cube bead. I've also got some 7 or 8mm freshwater pearls, which I've put on a head pin with one of the 3mm beads. I made a loop. I've got an ear wire, and I've got some little links of chain, which is what I like to use. You don't have to do that, but that's what I use to hang things from for the 3 drops. So I'm going to make one component with you, and then I'm going to show you how to put it all together. And if you want to just use one component for an earring too, you can also do that. I'm sitting down, I'm putting on my head, my visor, and I'm going to try to make sure you can see everything. This is a little bit tricky because it's so small and a little fiddly, but I'll do my best so you can see everything. Okay, so I've got a number 10 beading needle, and for this I'm using 6-pound fireline. Now, with an earring like this, you don't want it to be floppy. You don't want someone to wear it and have it flop around. So you're going to need to keep your tension tight. I've learned that the hard way over the years. So this, you need a fairly tight tension to hold everything in place. The square beads help because they sit on top of each other. Okay, so I'm pulling this arm's length of 6-pound fireline through the bead. I'm going to wrap it around the bead twice. You don't need to leave much of a tail, just a few inches. I'm going through, I want to put 2 wraps on each side. So I hope you can see this. I've got 2 threads over here and 2 threads over here on the other side. Now, I know from experience that 8 of these 1.8mm beads will go around this. So I'm going to pick up and I'm going to start brick stitching around. So I'm going to pick up 2 of these beads. I'm going to go under the thread, the 2 threads that is, and these first 2 will sit right on the top of this bead. So I want to take my finger and I want them to sit right on the top. The first one is going to become the last one in the row. And I'm going to brick stitch up Hopefully you know how to do brick stitch already. Once that's done, give it a nice tug and make sure those two are sitting right on the top. Next thing I'm going to do is pick up another one, and I'm going to start, oops, brick stitching around the side. Go under, and back up through. I'm catching on everything today. Let's get that out of the way. I've got kind of a long thread because I'm going to use this thread to connect everything together. But it is catching in my small space here. Okay. Back up through. Okay, so I've got two on the top. And these two beads will sit right on the side. Okay, 4 more to go. So the next two are going to sit right on the bottom of this bead. If you have a round bead, you just keep going around. Okay. Keep pulling. The next bead's going to sit right on the bottom too. I like to take my tail and stick it up while I'm going in this direction, then I don't have to do it later. Okay, only 2 more to go. That tail out of the way. 1. I know this is small and my fingers are big. I do apologize for that. I will do my best to show you each step. My thumb does get in the way. Okay, we've got our 8 beads. Now, that first one is now the last one. We're going to go down through that and underneath the threads. Go back up through. So you've got 8 cube beads suspended around a 4mm bead. So you see that? Okay, so that's 1 row done out of 3. If you need to adjust any of them, stick your needle up there, you can move them around. They're all suspended on this 1 thread. Okay, so for the next layer, we're going to use the 3mm cube beads, and I'm going to put 1 per space. So there's also going to be 8 of them. You're going to start by picking up 2. I'm coming out of here. The first one is going to be the one that goes between these 2, and so I'm going to go underneath the second space and back up through. Now this is a little fiddly, needs some adjustment. You want this first bead to sit at the top, right here. So just to make sure it does, you can also take another needle and stick it through the hole. Ow! My life, stabbing myself with needles. Anyway, just to hold it there, so as you go around, and then you can adjust the position of the subsequent beads. Just make sure they're in the right place. All right, behave. Okay, so that one's sitting at the top. Now the next one's going to sit right on the side. Let's get a nice regular one. Some of these 3mm cubes are a little irregular. We're going to go around putting 1 per space. They're going to have a tiny bit of space between some of them, but that's okay. It's making a nice effect. Okay, here's the next one. Pull it nice and tight. Okay, that's what it looks like so far. Now we need 1 for the bottom. I'm going to put my tail up through that one too, so I don't have to do it later. There we go. I think that saves me a bit of time later. Not having to, I hate tying in ends, and it's time consuming. So if I can do a little bit of it as I'm going, I'm perfectly happy to do that. Okay, only 3 more. Next space. And as you go, just make sure they're sitting in the right place. You'll have a chance to adjust them at the end, but if you can do it as you're going, so much the better. Okay, here's the side. That's number 7. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. Okay. And number 8. Last space. Then we're going to go back and grab that one that's at the top, which is the first one we laid in. It's going to go in that space. Now let's step back and have a look. Pull it nice and tight, both ways. Okay. So you should have, whoops, wobbly camera. Okay, you should have 1 at the top and the bottom, 1 on each side, and 4 between. So you can push these around with your finger if they're not in the exact place. Look this way, look this way. You can kind of adjust them a little bit just to have them sitting properly. Okay, now we're going to go on to the 3rd row, and I'm going to use this other color. Again, I'm going to pick up 2. Same thing with brick stitching around a bead. And because they're square, they sort of sit nicely on top of each other. It holds them tight too. Now for me, each one of these components, I put in a little jump ring, and each of the 4 elements has one. At the top, it holds the ear wire, and then these 3 each have one that holds a drop. And I'm putting them in the right position because my bead isn't round. So this one goes at the top or bottom, these 2. This one goes down here at this kind of angle. So I'll be putting it in as I go around. Meanwhile, keep going around. You're going to have approximately 3 beads per space, but not always. And try not to push the 3mm beads out of position. You see how that just got pushed a little bit? Push it back. Watch the spacing as you go around. Brick stitching. Keep it fairly tight, good tension. I think I want to add 1 more before I put my little jump rings in. And don't be afraid to push the beads around where you want them to go too. Like sometimes these beads at the top will move because you're pulling them this way. You can feel free to kind of push them back into place. I'm always doing that. Oh no, I'm not quite ready yet. Okay. Okay. Like I said, it's approximately 3 beads per space, but not always. Okay. How are we looking here? Top, bottom. Okay, I'm going to put my little rings in. You could make a little loop with beads, whatever you want to do. This is just my preference. when I put little links of chain in, I like to go around a couple of times just to reinforce that while I'm here, so I don't have to do it later. Alrighty, how are we looking? Almost halfway around. Ah! Stabbing myself again. Story of my life. Oh gee, I even think I'm bleeding a little bit. Also totally normal. Okay. Again, I'm going to take my tail, put it up through here, so I don't have to deal with it later. I'm going to be cutting that off in a moment. Okay, keep going around. I'm not necessarily counting, I'm just kind of seeing about the spacing of these. Sometimes it's nice you get, it's exactly 2 or 3 beads so you can count and make it all very precise, but in this case not necessarily. But this kind of bead weaving is definitely about, there's a little bit of precision involved for sure. This is a little fussy, this design is a little fussy. Sometimes if the beads aren't totally regular, you can have issues. Okay, it's coming along. Just another 1 or 2. Let's see. Okay, so I get to this point and I have to decide whether I want to try to shove another bead in here or if I want to pull the next one over. Let's see what we got here. Is it going to fit? I think so. It's probably best not to put another bead in there. Sometimes I always want to put an extra bead in. Sometimes it is not the right thing to do. It really changes everything. I'm going to try to shove this down in here. We will see. We are going back up through the original bead. And I'm going to push that bead to fit down in there. I just want that to go in there, so it's going in. That's just kind of how I roll. Okay. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to cut off this end. This gets sewn so much together you don't really need to worry about ends very much. Okay, so move this a little bit out of the way. So this component is going to sit, these two, the first thing I'm going to do is assemble these 2 components here in the middle. And I know which ones they are because I've got my little rings situated. Not that one. It is this one. Okay. My bead is lining up right. And my little dangly things are both going to be going this way. So they're going to be lining up like this. So basically I'm going to take my thread, I'm going to sew them together right here in the middle. So I'm going to get my thread down to here. So I'm just going to go back and forth a few times. Now that your components are made, okay. Until it's sticking out. Okay. Now my thread's in the right position. So I'm going to be joining these 2 beads here to these 2 beads here. Like I said, this is a little fussy, right? It's a little fussy. Okay. I'm going to go through, make sure they're lined up right. Okay, there we go. Going over to this one. Okay, so those two are lined up. Okay, I'm going to go around again to reinforce. I'm going to do it at least a couple of times. Okay. There we go. Okay, pull that nice and tight. So I've got my two elements in the center. So, and then I'm going to have one on the top and one on the bottom. I'm making sure my little rings for hanging. It doesn't really matter. One can go on the top and one can go on the bottom. They're double-sided. Okay, so I need to get my thread up here. So basically there's two beads that are joined together here. I'm going to skip two, and then the next two are going to join here. And skip two, and these two are going to join with these two up here. So there's going to be two empty ones in the middle of each. So let me get my needle up there in the right place. Alrighty. 1, 2, 1. Okay, there's the two at the bottom. I'm going to go in the next one here. And again, I'm going to join them kind of how I did the other ones. These two. Are going to join with these two. And I've just made enough of this earring over the years to know that this is how you put it together and how many beads, you know, to skip. So I'm just passing that information on. Okay, and around twice there. Okay, next I'm going to join over here. Take my needle over there. Pull that all nice and tight. Okay. Into this one. Okay. And joining those and going around again. Pull it nice and tight so the square beads are sitting right next to the other square beads, so they will stay right in place. Okay. Now we only have one other element to put in, and that's down here at the bottom. So I need to get my needle in the right place again. Do whatever you need to do. Okay. What did I do? Let's try that again. Okay, Leslie. I see. You know what? I think I'll use this thread. It's already a little closer. Sometimes it's good to have an extra thread. Okay. I'm just going to take it down through the beads here. They're pretty tight, pretty tightly together. Don't break one. That's happened to me before too. Just be careful going through. one at a time. Okay. Okay. We're getting close here. So we got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we need to go back up here. Okay, we've got these two in the middle. We're skipping these two and these two. And we're going to join with this here, with these two here. And this will be, the other side will be on these two. Okay, so we're going in here. Kind of makes it easy to count beads, as long as I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. Oops, what did I do? I didn't come out the right way. See, just not quite paying enough attention. Okay, yeah, we're getting there. Let's join these together better. Let's go around again. 1, 2, and pull it nice and tight. Go through one more time. Okay, I'm getting my needle over to the next position for joining them. Those are joined, skip those two and here. Sew those together really well. Pull that nice and tight, go around again. Okay. Okay, that's assembled. I will tie that thread off later. Nice and tight. Okay, we've got some good tension here. Now, I've got this nice long thread here. Let's go back to that one. We are getting there. Now, I really like this sweet little border out of, these are copper colored 15s. So I've got this thread over here, and I'm basically going to go around the edge with those copper colored beads. It's going to kind of tie it all together. Do that at the end. Okay, so I'm going to pick up 3. It's coming out of one bead. Oh, got a dud there apparently. I've got 3. Skip the next bead, and we're basically going to just sew these in. 3. Now, if you're not using a little piece of chain, this is your opportunity to make a little loop too for things to hang from. You can kind of do this as you go. So we're going to go all the way around the edge. Keep going in the next space. And this is like making a little picot, those 3 beads together. So when you get to the top, you can make your little loop of beads if that's what you're doing. I only do 2 near my little rings, just to make it not so bulky. I don't want it to be bulky near those jump rings. There we go. Three. 3. Doesn't that look nice? Now, when I'm coming up to a corner, I also put like 2 in the corner too. You don't want to, before I move to the next little element. I think also if you don't necessarily have these square beads, I think that you could substitute different kinds of beads. You'll have to play around with it to see how many fit around the central 4mm bead. Okay, I'm coming up to the corner here. I'm just going to put a couple in as I transition over to the next element here. Just put 2. Just depends on how much frou-frou you want on the edge. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. There's that. Okay. Heading around. I think you get the general idea. I'm going to keep going around with this, tie off the threads, and I'm basically done with this. I will hang the pearls, and I will come back to show you what it looks like when it's finished.